Hello everybody, welcome to another YouTube video. Today we are covering the recently revealed Alpha Legion rules and why I think they're very strong even though we've only seen one of them so far. Let's get right into it. Now if you haven't heard the news, the Alpha Legion detachment rule got revealed earlier today. And it is known as the Deceptors Detachment, which is obviously themed around the sneaky tricks of our beloved Alpha Legion. And to say it's strong I think is an understatement. So when you're before the game, you select up to 3 at a 2,000 point game, either Legionaries or Cultists, or a mix of the two. And they gain the Infiltrators keyword, as well as any characters attached to them. Now, this is really strong for a couple of reasons that are immediately obvious, but may not be totally obvious to those who are less enthralled in the discussion of our toy soldiers. So that's what this video is going to be, is I'm going to go into why I think this is so strong and why I think it bodes well for the Alpha Legion. And people who wish to use its colors, or its rules while flying other colors. Because remember, everyone's Alpha Legion at the end of the day. So we're going to cover the Legionaries first. And the first fact is the Chaos Space Marines have a bad history of infiltrators and scouts. Occasionally in the past, Alpha Legion could bring cultists with scouts. And we have the Beastmen, but they're stupidly expensive for how fragile they are. And we're going to cover why Legionaries are perhaps now the best infiltrators in the game. Legionaries are a very dangerous melee unit. They get their reroll wounds against enemies on objectives, as well as their heavy melee weapons, making them a pretty decent general purpose threat, and even more so once you attach a Lord, or something like a Master of Executions, which I see no reason not to, because they also gain the keyword. So you could have 3 units of 10 with Lords deploy up the front line and basically be a ticking time bomb of annihilation for your opponent. And since they're infantry, they can hide behind ruins and then jump out and charge on their first turn. I think this is just a genuine, really strong ambush idea, pretty much, or bum rush if you want to call it that, with just the amount of weight of wounds and durability that the Chaos Space Marine Legionaries have. They're not only pretty tough for their points, they hit really hard in melee, and they can hit most things hard as long as they're on an objective. And with a Chaos Lord, they become even more general purpose because you get that super powerful Demon Hammer, or another melee weapon if you're more persuaded to that. I think it could result in a lot of games being settled super quickly, which is very in theme for the Alpha Legion. And then the Cultists, who for most of Chaos Space Marine history have been our MVPs, if you remember back to last edition and the edition before that, and so forth, into ad nauseum, into infinity, pretty much. Cultists have been our scoring units forever, as any chaff would be, and that's not going to change here. Cultists are cheap. They have some special weapons, like that grenade launcher, which can help chip some damage, and they have sticky objectives. So if you really wanted to, if you weren't inclined to run Legionaries, you could just catapult anywhere from 30 to 60 of these guys right up the board, and they would hold objectives really well, they would move block really well, they would take a lot of firepower to take down, and they would just buy time for your slower things like Terminators or foot-slogging Chosen to get up the board and wreck some face. As well as their sticky objectives, meaning even if someone does have enough anti-horde to take them out, they will still hold the objectives, at least for a little while, and they will prove to be invaluable early game scorers, really. I think that bringing Cultists as your infiltrators is just as valid as bringing full-on Legionaries. And I think that this is just another strength of this, is the flexibility of bringing 3 units of infiltrating Cultists or 3 units of Legionaries to do either front-load damage against more elite, or to front-load damage against things that aren't quite as like against Custodes. I would put the Cultists up front, because the Custodes will be able to kill them pretty quick, but there's just so many of them that they will struggle to get through every single one, and they'll move block them and get in their way, which can then lead to a powerful alpha strike. But say I'm fighting something like Imperial Guard, I would probably use Legionaries because they are so effective at killing almost everything in their army. It just leads to massive tactical flexibility, and you get to choose when you're right before you start deploying. So really bringing a suite of both, a few big units of Legionaries, a few big units of Cultists, lets you flex your army into whatever role it needs to fill, and to tailor make it against the best opponents. Say you're fighting knights, it's better to probably put the cultists up front because they can nuisance charge, they can tie up knights, even if they're not going to do any damage. They can take an objective in the command phase and then just go charge off into a knight that will kill them eventually, but will not be able to kill all of them at once, which puts them into a tough situation. Or if you're fighting, say, Tau, you can put so many legionaries up front that they immediately have to focus fire on those things, where there may be even more dangerous stuff behind them, and then they have this huge scourge of legionaries just sweeping through their line, annihilating things. Truly, I think this is a super powerful detachment ability, and I haven't even gotten to the best part, is that I think that maybe the best way is to run a mix of both. I think you could maybe bring one unit of cultists to stand on an objective and take it, 2 units of legionaries to immediately apply pressure, or maybe if you're bringing mainly cultists, you could bring a unit of legionaries to, again, apply that pressure and keep fire away from the cultists, which is a strange thing to say, but if those cultists aren't the main focus, they're just a huge wall that your enemy infantry and vehicles just can't get through until they either take fire off of the legionaries, which is a really bad idea, or they keep firing at the legionaries and they get nuisance charged, or they get attacked, or they just can't make it to where they need to be because of the movement positioning that the cultists get. I think this detachment rule looks super strong, and I can't wait to run this detachment. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be running this for the rest of the edition, but who knows, maybe I'll dip my fingers into the other ones. Anyways, I've been Spoons Rattling. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will make a video on the price increases later this week. I'll see you all then.